बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम अस्सलाम वालेकुम मैं हूं अफशील बाबर एंड वेलकम बैक टू माय channel. As you all know that it's an IELTS series and I've been telling you about the IELTS. In my previous video we have talked about the IELTS and their bends and the CFER and different kind of modules we are having. Today we will talk about the basic four modules and basic kind of a test, how the IELTS test will be conducted. How the IELTS test usually conducts, we have four modules of it. This is listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Most of the time, we just go for the IELTS preparation, and we think that only conversation test and communication test would be there. No, there will be listening test as well. There will be reading test as well, writing test as well, and then there will be speaking test as well. As I have already mentioned in my previous video, that for depending upon academic visa, depending about H2 visa, depending about what kind of visa are you talking about. Are you going for academic? Are you going for work? Are you going for immigration? And according to that, we are going to have our IELTS. Those IELTS conducts different kind of a test. But in listening, reading, and speaking, approx this test is same. Writing test is little bit different between academic and general. So let's start with that listening. Do remember what is the sequence of the test. It always comes with the same sequence. It will not be changed. The sequence is listening, then reading, then writing, and in the end that would be speaking. Later on I'll talk about that quite in detail. First, we'll go for the listening test. In four modules, our first listening test is about 30 minutes with the breaks, definitely. 10 minutes break would also be given, and there would be the 40 questions there. You have to write during the questions. I would rather prefer you get the 10 minutes afterwards, but because the listening test is quite difficult and they have the British accent, especially for the Pakistani Asian students, there it is difficult to get that British accent. So if you write during the test, after the test, when you have the break at the time, it would be easier for you to fill out the remaining gaps. Otherwise, if you just believe in that, I would listen all the audio, and after that, I am going to have all that paper filled. It would be difficult for you. You would be given an answer sheet. You have to directly write an answer on the answer sheets. So that's all about that audio test or the listening test. You have to. I'm repeating myself. You have to write during listening. It would be good for you. Next, I would go for the reading paper. How would it be? It would be given a paper to you. There would be the passage of 40 questions. How will it work in that 40 questions? How do they work? In 40 questions, there are some passages, and according to that, the questions are being given. In academic and in general, approx both that the reading test would be same. How will it go? Like passages would be given. According to that, answers would be given. You have to write down the best options. Options would also be given in that reading test. You don't have to write. It's not subjective paper. It's kind of an objective paper, but the objectives are very lengthy, complete sentences. They are not single words. Either the message is given about, for example, the message is given about a person who is crossing the road. So the information which is being given in the paragraphs would also be asked with the similar vocabularies and with the similar synonyms to have that in the questionnaire. And in questions, there would not be the single word question. You don't have to write it down. You have to just tick the correct option in the 4 or 5 options which are being given. Next, I would definitely go for the writing test. Writing test depending upon general and IELTS and academic IELTS. In writing test, in academic IELTS, there are two tasks, in general and in academic as well. So in general, we would go for the letter. It's quite easier. And in academic, we write a report. Task 1 for general and academic are different. This is the only difference we have in academic IELTS and general IELTS, but that definitely affect on your result of an IELTS, because writing test matters a lot, especially when you're going for academic one. If you're writing a report, you will be given a chart, maybe a flow chart, a pie chart. You have to describe that pie chart. You have to write down an official report, or maybe you have to write down a technical report. So whatever it is, you have to write a report in academic. And in general, you have to write down an informal letter, semi-formal letter, or very rarely a formal letter. Very rarely a formal letter. But in task 2 for academic and general, the both task 2s are essay writing. And in academic, you have to write down 200 to 350 words. And in general, you have to write down 150 to 200. So there is a difference in writing this. Task 2 as well, where when you are going for academic, it's quite hard for you to go for 200 to 350 words, because 350 words comes a lot. So definitely. Now I would go for total, that would be given. So one thing more I would like to tell you, that in the writing test you would be given total the 60 minutes. In those 60 minutes, definitely it is difficult to write, especially in academic one. It is difficult to write 350 words plus other words. So you have to practice it a lot before the time. You have to keep doing it. You have to keep writing, and your writing speed should be much better than the normal one. So if you are able to connect it within a 60 minutes, you will definitely get the good score. Now, writing essay is an art itself, basically. So you have to practice it. You should know in an essay what to write, what not to write, hypothesis, conclusion, main body, introduction, all those terminologies that should be used. Either you are not using it, so you will not get the good marks. So most of the time, the people who are attempting for the IELTS, they do not get the good marks, because they are going to have that bad writing skills. So writing skills needed to be practiced more. In the last but not least, I will go for that speaking. Speaking test, I would definitely tell you one thing, that listening, reading, and writing test would be in the same day. But speaking test, which is called an interview or a communication test, would be on another day. It would be count any other day. For example, you have your reading, writing, or listening test on 20th. So maybe on 25th you would be called, you would be given a message or an email that you have your interview test or you have your communication test, which is called the speaking test. Speaking test is same for the academic and for general as well. So you do not need to worry about. There are three tasks in a speaking test. Number one is formal kind of an interview, is that basically a semi-formal or a formal interview. They ask you about yourself. That's part one. In part one, they have divided your interview, your time, because your time would be 11 to 14 minutes, not 60 minutes, not 40 minutes, not 30 minutes like listening, reading, and writing. It would be 11 to 14 minutes. So in that, how do they divide it? Like for 1.5 to 3 minutes, you have to talk about yourself. That is a task one. In task 2, you would be given a card, and that would be card task. You would be given 1 minute to think before, and then 2 minutes to talk. So that would be a task card, and it would be difficult for you to think, to have that if you're not practiced. If you're practiced about the mind mapping, you know how to how to settle your mind, how to do the mind mapping, how to talk one to one, how to talk about any of the object, or maybe the card would be given about a situation, or maybe any of the object. For example, car, house, any of the thing, team, any cricket team, any football team. So you need to talk continuously about that. If you are not giving there, if you are just giving a short answers like how are you, I'm fine, and then you're staying quiet, it would reduce your scoring. You have to keep speaking. When they ask about, tell me something about yourself, so you should have approx 10 to 12 things, which are in my next session, in my next speaking course, inshallah, I'm going to tell you that what you need to talk about. How will you cover your 2.5 minutes to 3 minutes. So you have to exactly keep talking until they ask you another question. Otherwise, your scoring would be low. Next, you would go for the task for the card, or you have to talk about the mind mapping for 1 minute, and then you have to talk about that particularly object. And part 3 is remaining 3 minutes, and which would be like how you are going to give that follow up. They have that the similar questions about yourself or the task being given to you. In academic, there would be given a different kind of a social issues in the card, but in general they give you the easy task. They give you that card about your commodities, or maybe your liabilities, or any of the assets you have in your home. So in general, you do not need to worry about the card task, but in general, they talk about the part one a lot, because they want you to be communicative. And how will you be communicative if you migrate there? So that's their task is. Do remember, the sequence would be the same of the test. Would be listening, then reading, then writing, and then it would be speaking. When you would be given a test, you don't worry about it. Once you go for your book your date and you go there, that would be starting with the listening, and then it would be reading, then writing, and then speaking. And it would definitely be same. And speaking test would be on any other day. After, how would you get the result? Its online result being announced after 13th day of your speaking test. Don't remember, like if you go for your writing test on 20th, you're supposed to have your test on 20, speaking test on 25th. So after 25th, that would be 13th day. So after 13 days of your given test, finalized test, your result will be online given. You can have the hard copy from there as well, from that any of the agency you are approx would book your test for. So you can have the hard copy, but that takes time. That takes approx 30 days. So you have to wait for that. One thing is very important. If you are going to book your IELTS test, passport is must to carry. Remember, if you do not have the passport, they do not book your test. Because if you do not have the passport, how would you go? How would you go out, and why you need to go for the IELTS? Because IELTS is not any of the course or any of the learning. It is basically international English language testing system, which tests your proficiency, how proficient you are about that English. How can you speak English? How much can you adjust in any of the is English speaking or a native speaking country? So I wish that I have covered all the things which I have or which I can share with you. See you inshallah with the next video. Allah Hafiz.